Governor Whitmer delivers her State of the State address fronted by something unusual for a Michigan governor, a surplus. Where should that money go? And General Motors makes an electrifying investment in its home state. The governor wants you to plug in too. Are you ready? Today is Sunday, January 30th, 2022, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. We are heading into an exciting stretch here at Local 4. This Friday, we'll be bringing you the opening ceremonies of the Winter Olympic Games. I'm a huge fan of the Olympics, but truth be told, I do prefer the winter edition over the summer because just about every sport, every event seems to be death-defying. In fact, we need curling just to get our heart rates back under control. And of course, later today, we're going to find out who's going to play in this year's Super Bowl, which you'll see on Local 4 on February 13th. If it's anything close to what we saw last weekend, we're in for some thrilling stuff. But today, we're going to turn our attention back to the week that was. It included its own thrilling stuff with the announcement from General Motors on Tuesday. We've known they are all in on electrics, but it was exhilarating to see that so much of that all in is directed at Michigan. That, of course, teed up things quite nicely for the governor and her State of the State address on Wednesday night, delivered from Detroit Diesel, where they're building the future for electric semis. Governor Whitmer finds herself in the position that most recent Michigan governors could only dream of, with a big surplus of money in the bank. Well, when you find yourself with a surplus, what do? Do you invest it? Stick it in the bank? Take care of all those pressing needs that have been on hold for so long? Some would suggest that I've already created a false equivalency, that the surplus isn't her money, that it's actually yours and mine, and we should get it back. That's the debate ahead in Lansing. And ahead today on Flashpoint, we'll talk about the governor's plans, and we'll talk about her push to get you in an electric vehicle. Are you ready for that? And if you are, is there a place for you to plug in? It's all today on Flashpoint. So the governor has painted the starting line on the track. Where does all of this go from here? As Crane's Detroit Business put it this week, tax cut fever is already sweeping Lansing, but should it? Let's talk about it with a group that is very dialed in on all of these decisions. From Crane's Business Detroit, Executive Editor Kelly Root is with us there. So is Kevin Johnson, the President and CEO of the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation. Jeff D'Onofrio is the President and CEO of Business Leaders for Michigan. And the President and CEO of the Detroit Regional Chamber, Sandy Barua, is here as well. Gang, thanks very much. What a group I've got here today. And Kelly, let me start with you since I've already quoted your publication. I suppose it was really interesting to see already some agreement that some of this money should be going back to the people who supplied it in the first place. But clearly not all of it is going to. This is a great debate, I think, Kelly.
It is. We have a story up right now, actually, by Chad Livengood, our senior editor, that is, a deep dive into what kind of jobs we should be chasing with this money. The state is sitting on a very large pile of money. Some of it is federal stimulus money. Some of it is, revenue general fund surplus. And the question is, where does it go? And we are at kind of an inflection point on deciding whether we should be, allocating money for knowledge economy jobs that helps fuel the technology behind EVs, or manufacturing jobs. Clearly we need to be funding both, and they're both important. But, there is time right now to really think philosophically about where we're headed with this money.
Kevin, I can't find very many people that don't think that we have to do something about American infrastructure. We watched almost on cue another bridge collapse happen in Pittsburgh on Friday. And yet, how to pay for it, how much of it we should be setting aside for those days still seems to be a really dramatic political divide.
Well, it's interesting that we're talking about infrastructure. And I know just by pure of my experience that corporations invest in communities that invest in themselves. So at the same time, we're talking about, driving more innovation and manufacturing into our city and in our state. We can't expect that we're going to attract anything or retain anything in this state when you have crumbling infrastructure. So I think, there's no politics in my mind about infrastructure, because every politician I know, they drive to their places of business, they drive to work, they use the same roads that we do. So why there's a political debate is beyond my imagination. This is pure in delaying what I think to be an already deferred maintenance program for this entire state. So you can only defer the maintenance for so long before you can get to a point where you're talking about bringing in investment and the infrastructure is crumbling. Well, that's counterproductive and it's counterintuitive to the type of jobs that we're trying to bring into the state of Michigan. So I don't want to even talk about politics when it comes down to infrastructure.
Interesting, though, Jeff, because we certainly haven't seen passage of Build Back Better because there is mass disagreement over what constitutes, in this day and age, infrastructure and what needs building back and improvement and what is better left to other ways, I guess, of moving forward.
Yeah, I think what's overarching important, what you hear from Kelly, what you hear from Kevin, and what you hear from, I think, a lot of people in the business community is what is the business environment? What do we actually have as talent base? How are we closing the talent gaps that we need? Do we have the infrastructure, the water, the sewer? Tennessee is putting about a third of their ARP dollars into water and sewer right now because they're growing at such a fast rate. I think that's what we've got to look for is our future, because we have this unique moment in time where we face a lot of challenges as a state, but we also have a lot of resources to take on those challenges.
Sandy, in fact, that's a great point. We now have a real ability here to compare and contrast what happened with Ford and what happened with General Motors. Can you kind of break down for me what you see as the difference in those outcomes?
Well, one is the state was ready for General Motors. It wasn't ready for Ford.
Simple as
that. So thanks to a lot of us, frankly, on this in this meeting this morning with you, Devin, we made tremendous progress in December that got us to the GM announcement last week. The question is, are we ready for the next announcement? And the answer is we're really not. We still don't have in Michigan a long-term economic development strategy. We don't have a long-term dedicated funding source. We have a great new leader at the MEDC, and I really applaud the governor for hiring Quentin Messer. But do we have the protocols and the processes in place that will last from governor to governor, as opposed to what we have been, which is every time we get a new governor, we get a new approach to economic development, unlike, say, Tennessee and Texas and South Carolina and others. And that's putting us at a real economic disadvantage when it comes to attracting new jobs for the next generation of workers in Michigan.
Well, really interesting, Kelly, that we saw such bipartisan glee over what happened with General Motors on Tuesday. Then we saw a fair amount of agreement over some of the governor's first offerings here on this, particularly for instance, getting rid of the pension tax. And yet, isn't the reality here that we're in an election year and the kind of infighting that Sandy's talking about is, of course, going to pop up again?
Absolutely. Everybody wants tax breaks. There's no one that is, not in favor of paying less taxes. And the interesting thing in the short term with this money and the proposals that the governor is putting forward is, where do they come together? The businesses generally right now are looking for more broad-based tax cuts, corporate income tax, that kind of thing. The governors are more targeted, but they're going to have to come together on this because there are a lot of there's still a lot to be done here. And one of the other issues in regard to the businesses right now is a lot of money is going to GM, and lots of folks are asking, where's our part of that? Brian Calley from SBAM was talking to us, the Small Business Association of Michigan was talking to us this week, and he basically said it's time for a reset to come together and figure out where more money can come to smaller businesses as well as the big giants.
Kevin, especially given what's happened over the last 2 years, there's a lot of small businesses that aren't even still at the table to have the conversation, and they feel very left out when they watch these kind of, I don't want to, gift baskets, I guess is what we'll call them. I mean, it is the way business is done today, but what do we do to better support the small businesses that are still left?
Well, I mean, Devin, there's a matter of priority, and I think you can support large enterprises like the GM. And I think you can prioritize and take care of Main Street at the same time. It can't be one playing one against the other, because that's how we got to where we are in the first place. I think the priority for the state of Michigan, and it's certainly a priority here in Detroit, is making sure that we have the resources that we need to invest in small businesses, because they're the ones that support the neighborhoods. That's where neighborhoods around the city of Detroit get their goods and services. And, you know, even here at DEGC, when we had the relief grants coming through the state, we pushed out $15 million to street level entrepreneurs to help stabilize their businesses. That's what the small business community wants to see, that they have access to resources, that whether it's coming from the state or the federal government or even at the local level, like programs like Motor City Match. We are committed to that endeavor. And when you can show them that you're committed to it, it doesn't get into GM got this and we're not getting that. It's showing them that we're willing to invest in them as well.
Jeff, I want to talk about that pension tax for just a minute. Brian Dickerson wrote an interesting piece on Friday that said, naturally, the one area that we find agreement already between the governor and Republicans is over a bad idea, at least his way of thinking. We shifted some responsibility off of businesses 10 years ago and put it on retirees. Should that tax go?
I think, you know, these tax cuts should be on the table for consideration. I mean, there is a lot of money in Lansing right now. A lot of it, though, is one time, though. And I think we have to look at it through the lens of, you know, what are we doing as trade-offs? Where are we investing in talent, in closing talent gaps? You know, going back to what Kevin was talking about with small businesses, I don't know a small business, a medium-sized business, or a large business that isn't having trouble finding talent right now.
Yeah.
The state of Michigan is in worse shape for labor force participation than virtually, 30 or 40 other states. We're 41st in the country. So if we don't really invest, if we don't find the ways to invest, in 5-10 years from now, we're going to be looking back and I think wringing our hands and saying, gosh, we wish we would have. The other piece of that is, you know, some of this, we have to look at whether this is one-time money or if this is sustainable surpluses, because we don't want to drive the state over a fiscal cliff in a few years. And so I'm really interested in talking to both the governor and Republicans about this.
Sandy, there were some critics of the governor believe that we are watching sort of a Jekyll and Hyde version of the governor. Early on, very interested in putting the clamps down on a lot of business activity in the state. Some people blame her for their business going out of business. And then we turn the corner toward an election, and all of a sudden things are much more open. She's interested in giving everybody, putting some more money in their mailbox. Is that just is it a narrative about the times in which we live and the way the pandemic has changed, or is that a fair criticism?
Yeah, I don't think it's a fair criticism of the governor. I mean, listen, I think we can look back over the last 2 years and point to, frankly, all 50 state governors and point to something that they probably wish they hadn't done. But following up on the question that you had to Kevin, yes, we've lost a lot of small businesses here in Michigan, but actually our new business starts in Michigan are at an all-time high. And this is a very different dynamic than occurred after the Great Recession, when we were upside down on business births and business deaths. And I think the other thing I would say about the governor's approach now is that a lot has happened over the last 2 years. You know, I agree with her. You know, the vaccines have changed the landscape. But also, we've kind of learned what works and what doesn't work. And obviously, people and businesses, each time there's a new wave, like we saw with Omicron, we've become a little bit more savvier with how to deal with this.
But Sandy, and I've only got a couple of seconds left, what does the fact that we still don't know what the world is going to look like here in 6 months, as much business as talent as we want to retain, we still don't even have a clear decision on whether or not people are going back to in-person work?
Yeah, and you know, there's a survey that Deloitte and Fortune did actually just 2 weeks ago. It came out, and it shows that business leaders, this is a national figure, are equally optimistic and challenged, right? And they say that 2022 is going to look like 2021. It's going to be a really challenging year, but it's going to be a positive year. And that basically means that all of us, if we're in business or if we're just trying to manage our families, we have to continue to be resilient and flexible, and that we've really never been through this as a modern society. Even though we're going into year 3 of this, no one has all the answers. No one's going to get it all right. We're kind of on our own. to some degree. We just have to be flexible and figure out what's best for our business and our families.
As I said on Flashpoint a couple of weeks ago, January 1st is a man-made construct. 2022 may not know that it's not supposed to be 2021. Friends, really great group, great conversation, and some really great points you've all given us to think about. Thanks so much, friends. We'll take a quick break. This is Flashpoint on Local 4. We'll talk more about electrification in Michigan in just a minute. It's a journey unlike any other.
Filled with remarkable stories
and incredible live reports,
leading to a moment when, for the first time,
the Winter Olympics and the Super Bowl
take place at the same time on the same station.
Local 4 is your home for exclusive Olympic coverage.
And the Super Bowl.
Watch Local 4 for this once-in-a-lifetime event.
At DraftKings Casino, we give credit where credit is due, in the form of credit. Sign up with DraftKings Casino and get up to $50 in free credits, plus a deposit bonus up to $2,000. That's like extra credit in the form of a bonus. Download the DraftKings Casino app or play online today. Get up to $50 in credits to use on any game, plus a deposit bonus up to $2,000. Now, roll credits.
Right now at Gardner White, save up to 75% on Detroit's largest selection of Serta mattresses. In stock with free same-day delivery, plus free gifts, plus 0% financing up to 60 months. Save on Serta Eye Comfort at just $1 a day. Get our Serta low price guarantee, like Serta Queen just $6.99 with free power base. Serta all sizes just $99. The grand opening sale, only at Gardner White, Detroit's #1 mattress store.
In Michigan, we know how to handle winter weather. And at Local 4, we know nailing that forecast can get you from your driveway through your drive home and all the stops in between. That's why we've got Storm Tracker 4. It can analyze a storm faster than any other station in the area and pinpoint where it's going to hit hardest so you know what's coming. Plus, you can have our forecast at your fingertips with the Local Forecasters app. Local 4 weather. Always watching, always tracking.
Welcome back. Frequent viewers of this program know all too well of my fondness and fascination with electric vehicles. And between the General Motors announcement on Tuesday and the governor's state of the state from Detroit Diesel on Wednesday, it's been an electric week, pointing to an electric future. And let's talk about it with John McElroy of Autoline and Michelle Krebs, executive analyst for Cox Automotive. Great to have you both back on the program again. Michelle, let me start with you. When that announcement came out from General Motors this week, your first thoughts were what?
Well, I think it was expected. They certainly have been hinting for some time that they were going to invest $6 billion, $7 billion into EVs here in Michigan. So I don't think it came as a total surprise.
But what does it say then about Michigan's footprint in this terribly important part of the future?
Well, I think in that way, it was a huge relief that Michigan is getting some of the action. We saw Ford go to Kentucky and Tennessee, and that didn't sit well. So I think, having GM, it's the biggest investment they've made, and it's coming to the state of Michigan.
John, clearly we just spoke in the last segment about the difference between what happened with Ford and General Motors. But then the next night, the governor talking about the incentives that she would like to put on top of the federal incentives, which is making it very incentive-laden now for someone to purchase an electric car. But as I said to the governor the night after her address, the average Tesla owner lives in a house that brings in about $150,000 a year. And some people are wondering if that's the best place, or if those are the best people for us to be aiming our incentives at.
Well, look, that's not going to happen, right, Devin, because even the federal legislation for EV incentives, they're capping that. I can't remember the exact number, but it's something like a $70,000 household income. That is two-earner income. So, we're not going to be giving incentives to people that, are buying luxury cars. The incentives will undoubtedly be targeted at people in the middle of the market who might be on the edge as to whether they want to buy an EV or not, and these incentives will help. It's critically important for GM Ford and the Chrysler Group of Stellantis that EVs really start to sell because they're putting so much money into them.
In fact, Michelle, that's a really critical point. Somewhere here, this has to go from being a really lofty idea to meet where the rubber meets the road, I guess we'll say, to put it in car parlance, right?
Well, absolutely. And we just did a study about what's it going to take for EV adoption. And the number one obstacle is price. You know, we have to get to the point where battery powered vehicles are close to the same price as gasoline powered ones. And whether tax credits are the way to go, I'm not really sure, but we have to address that price issue. And then, of course, range and charging are other issues.
And I want to make sure we get to those. But it's interesting that it's a price matter. They tend to be cheaper to keep. I have kind of enjoyed driving past gas stations, watching that price of gasoline. You know, I haven't enjoyed watching it move up because I know it's hurting a lot of people, but I've enjoyed that it hasn't been affecting my bottom line.
Right.
Yeah, well,
yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, that's the point. I mean, the beauty of electric cars for most people, not everyone, is you can charge in your garage at home. I mean, it's like having a gas station in your own garage at home. And guess what? You know, electricity, you know, sort of rule of thumb is about the equivalent of $1.20 a gallon. I mean, yeah, who don't want to fill up at $1.20 a gallon?
But we've got two problems here that still exist, and that one of them is definitely the range anxiety. But coupled with that is what happens in a cold weather town like ours. I'm watching my battery dwindle to about half of the capacity, Michelle, that it usually has in the summer. That's a problem that we're going to have to tech our way around, isn't it?
Right. I think, you know, there's a lot of work going on in batteries. I think we're going to see amazing advancements in the next 5-10 years. But to John's point, not everybody has a garage that they can put a charger in, too. So let's remember that.
That's true. In fact, John, we're going to have to get to the point where the charging stations are not hidden at the back of a strip mall the way that many of them are. It's not always, it's certainly not the experience that you have of driving up to a gas station, going in, getting something to eat and something to drink during the 3 minutes that your car fills up.
Yeah, but that's going to get solved, Devin. You know, if you go back over 100 years ago, there were no gas stations. If you wanted gasoline for your horseless carriage, you had to go look for a pharmacy or a drugstore, and they sold them in big tins or big glass jugs. But the demand was there, and the gas stations followed, and the same thing's going to happen with electric cars and electric charging stations.
We're also watching, we're eventually, I think, John, going to see, we're watching technology develop right now that's going to make charging much, much faster, right?
That's happening. You know, it's all in the development lab and development stages right now. But all around the world, R&D centers, car companies, suppliers, tech startups, universities, you name it. Everybody's working on this problem. And we've seen this throughout the 100-year-plus history of the automotive industry. When they start buckling down and really try to solve a problem, they do it. They do it every single time. Yeah. They'll get the cost of this down, they'll get the charging ubiquitous, and they'll get the charging time down as well.
Michelle, we've got a lot of people that have really enjoyed watching this resurgence. And when we talk about these manufacturing jobs and new plants back in Michigan, but I think there's some doubt as to whether or not it can ever be work the same way that the old system did, to which Michigan became so accustomed.
Well, I think, you know, there is a lot of nervousness because electric vehicles don't require as many people to build. You know, we are going to be building batteries here. That will take some jobs. But I think that is a real concern with workers as to, you know, what's going to happen. And how about those things, the aftermarket shops? You know, how many people do they need? But they're simpler vehicles to repair. So I think that it's a legitimate concern.
Yeah. And John, what are the tie-ups in the supply chain doing to this very nascent growth that we were trying to develop in this industry? Isn't that pulling it back just like it is every other part of the car world?
It is, but here's the real issue. Look, China put together a really good strategic plan of how to dominate the electric vehicle industry, and it's done it. I mean, they control the entire supply chain of raw materials that are needed for batteries and electric motors. The real critical challenge for the U.S. and Europe and the rest of our allies is how do we develop our own supply chain? Right. And if we do it onshore, and there's a lot of work being looked at into doing this, we can preserve a lot of jobs. Now, I'm not going to say that somebody that's making crankshafts is going to start processing, what they call rare earth minerals. Nonetheless, net of net, the U.S. economy can grow the number of jobs in the automotive industry if we onshore and include this entire supply chain of raw materials.
And if we don't get that right, shame on us, no doubt. Thanks so much for the expertise as always. I love turning to you too.